Hello and welcome back to the channel where once again it's time for another first impressions video in my Dreamcast series. With us today taking a look at the game known as ChuChu Rocket, a puzzle game that originally saw released in November of 1999 in Japan before coming out in March 2000 in North America and then finally June 2000 over here in the PAL region. It's a game that was specifically built to test out the Dreamcast's processing powers with having so many characters on the screen at once and also its online gameplay capabilities. One thing that's worth pointing out is that this game was actually given away for free in the PAL territories if you were a member of the Dream Arena subscription service. Like always, I'll be summarizing my first impressions through around about 60 minutes of gameplay in terms of what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it plays like, its content and lifespan, whether it's a game that I will come back to potentially play more of, and ultimately what final grade I decide to give it. So once the main menu comes around, you'll see you've got a choice of help, 4-player battle, team battle, stage challenge, puzzle, puzzle edit, network, homepage and options. Heading into options, you've got general settings, settings for 4-player, records, language, keyboard settings as well. If you go into the general settings, you can change your character model. I think this comes into play once you've finished some of the modes and you've unlocked some additional ones. And you've also got some sound settings too. So like always, I'm going to start with the visuals first, and if you've never seen or played ChuChu Rocket yourself, you may well be surprised by the very basic approach that they've gone for here. At first glance, it looks completely two-dimensional, but it's actually fully 3D. What the developers had to do during the development process was change it from a 3D to a 2D viewpoint because they felt it played better this way, and I actually agree with that. I think if this was played at a slant at 3D, it wouldn't play anywhere near as enjoyably well as it does. In terms of the color palette, it's not particularly good. It's not the brightest and the most vivid a puzzle game, and a lot of puzzle games that you see tend to go for that approach. You know, we've looked at the Tetris games and the Buster Move games on the Saturn in my review series, and they always tend to be quite bright and vivid, and I feel ChuChu Rocket is slightly subdued in this way. And in all fairness, it's a pretty fundamental functional game from start to finish, whether I'm talking about the visuals in the game, whether I'm talking about the menu presentation or the editing screen. It's all pretty much just basic and standard, and there isn't really any wow factor here. Obviously, you have to take into account the game only took 4.5 months to make from start to finish. It was released as a budget title, and like I said at the start, if you subscribe to the Dream Arena in the PAL regions, you were given this game for free, so it was by no means what I would call a full retail release game. What you have to do is just take it for as it is, because it's not designed to be a visual showpiece for the Saturn. Like I said, it was designed to test the Saturn's processing power with all the different number of characters on the screen and the fact that it was designed for online gameplay as well. So moving on to the sound effects and music next, and there isn't really a whole lot to say here from my experience with the game either. We've got some very basic sound effects, some explosions, some sound effects for the rockets taking off, and a few others as well. There really isn't that much in all fairness, and the music is pretty basic and simplistic. Definitely nothing spectacular, and perhaps not even as good as some other puzzle games that I've taken a look at in the past either. It really is just background music. So what I'll do is just give you some examples of some of the tunes within the game. So moving on to the gameplay next, and the game is very, very simplistic. It revolves around the ChuChus, which are the space mice, trying to escape from the CapuCapus, which are the space cats, and you simply have to lead them to the rockets where they can blast off to safety on the majority of levels. Now, not all the levels are the same, because some of the levels will require you to play as the space cats and you'll need to capture the mice. Other ones will need you to send cats into the opposing player's goal to deduct points off them. And there's a few other variations as well, so it's not completely the same thing time and time again. In terms of the controls, it's pretty simplistic. You move the D-pad or the analog stick to navigate the cursor around the screen, and the 4 face buttons will put down corresponding arrows up the same direction. It is very, very simplistic. Obviously, the different modes of play add a little bit of variety, and there's obviously multiplayer modes as well. You can play all these in one player because you'll have CPU opponents or teammates in these modes, so it's not a case of you can't access all of the game by yourself. You can, but I think the main draw in the gameplay is the addictiveness and the competitiveness, and the fact that it's very fast, very frantic and frenetic, and it was designed at being a multiplayer game. Obviously, it was the first Dreamcast game with online multiplayer, and that is where the big pull of this game is. Obviously, you cannot go online in regular ways now with the Dreamcast. I do believe if you can get private servers going, you can still play it online, but that is not something that I've actually got any knowledge of doing. But in terms of its actual gameplay, it's addictive, it's pretty fun, and it's got this one more go quality to it. When you just want to try and do that stage that you keep getting stuck on, you'll try and try again, because it's quite a quick, fast-paced game. You can blast through them pretty quick once you get going, so it is quite entertaining and quite compulsive to play. Now, moving on to the content and lifespan next, and the main modes of play for me, certainly from my time with the game, are the stage challenge and the puzzle mode, where you've got a variety of levels to play through. There are quite a few, to be fair, and once you've played through all of these, I think you can unlock a hard mode for each one as well. You've got a 4-player battle where up to 4 players can simply face off against one another, and you've got a team battle which pits 2 against 2. Now, obviously, if you haven't got anyone to play with, you can do these as one player because the CPU will fill in all of the other slots. You've also got a puzzle edit mode where you can design your own puzzles for other people to play as well. This is pretty good as well. Now, of course, there is the network mode, which was a huge factor in the game when it came out, and now, of course, it's just literally a non-factor because you can't go online with the Dreamcast in standard ways. Like I said, I think you can pull off some shenanigans to be able to do it. Whether anybody at all would still be playing this game in any way, shape or form in 2025, I'm not too sure about that. So I feel overall there is quite a bit to do, and you can pretty much play all of it as a single player experience as well, and it is addictive, like I said, and it will probably take a reasonable amount of time, especially if you're going to play through every single challenge and then beat them all on hard mode too. I think there is quite a bit to play through here. So like always, that leaves me with my 2 final questions. Is ChuChu Rocket a game that I will return to play more of? And what final grade am I going to give it based on its first impressions? In terms of whether I'm going to play it again, I actually think it's very likely that I will, because it's quite an easy pick up and play fun game, and it's quite addictive as well. So I probably will try and finish all the basic challenges within the game. In terms of a final grade, this was quite easy as well. I'm going to give it a C, and I think a C is a pretty good score when you consider it was a game that had very little resources put into it. The team that worked on it, I think, was only about a dozen or so people, and it was brought together in such a short space of time. I think you have to be quite respectful in regards to it. But like always, I want to hear everybody else's thoughts on ChuChu Rocket, whether you had it when it came out, whether you played it recently. Let me know your thoughts on ChuChu Rocket down below. And like always, I'll be back same time next week with another first impressions video. Goodbye for now.